Do you sometimes wonder about whether all the videos that you see about selling ebooks or digital products online really stack up? Do you wonder whether the promises are real or whether they have just a little bit of fantasy or fable attached to them? Well, in this exclusive series of face-to-face interviews featuring successful online business owners, you can now discover the real journey behind those success stories. Real people with real financially successful online businesses who have learned to monetize their website. They've taken the plunge and either replaced or supplemented their income from a day-to-day job with their own online business. Hello, I'm Paul Buckingham, roving ambassador for Solo Build It. In this face-to-face interview, we talk in depth with Cath Andrews. Cath is a member of the Solo Build It content team, researching and delivering critical information for those wanting to build income using free traffic from the search engines. To speak authoritatively in that role, she needs to have her own financially successful online business with Solo Build It. She has two, and we'll discover her story right after this.
In 2016, two massive earthquakes hit central Italy, where I live. Our house was so badly damaged that we had to be evacuated. The insurance company paid 2/3 of the cost of repairs, which ran to €220,000, but we had to find the rest. My websites helped to pay that outstanding amount.
What was the spark that really got you moving?
The spark was kind of a negative one in a sense. I was in a job that I really didn't like. It had become something that I wasn't. It just wasn't fitting with me. And I decided to take early retirement. And I knew that would mean a massive drop in income. My pension would be cut by about 1/3. And I'd be earning a lot less than I had been. So I needed to find something that was going to keep me active because I was only quite young. I was actually a baby, really, when I retired. But I needed something to keep my brain going. I needed something to keep me interested. And I found SBI completely by accident. I looked at it, I loved it. I wake up every morning now thinking, I'm really happy to be getting up, walking the 5 yards into my office and starting work on my websites. And that's the difference it's made to my life.
Were you always in Italy or were you in England? How did we make the transition from England to Italy?
Right, so no, I was working in England. I was working in Liverpool where, Beatles, etc. And I was in a job that I'd been in for 35 years. I'd come to Italy and actually been married in Italy. I've got married in Rome and loved it, just loved the place. We spent our honeymoon in a house across the valley from where I now live. And Mike and I, my husband, just decided when we were retired that we wanted to do something completely different. We'd both spent most of our lives in the UK. We decided that something different would be to go and live in Italy. And everything just kind of fell into place. So we'd stayed in the house across the valley for our honeymoon. This house that I'm now living in became vacant. The family had to move out. We were offered it as first refusal. We came to see it the week before Christmas one year. And by January, we'd bought it and moved in. So we made the decision because we just wanted something a bit different to do with our lives. By that time, I'd already found SBI. So I knew that I could keep earning money. My sites were new, but I had one site at that time. It was new, but it was already earning me money. And I knew that I could work from anywhere. So that wasn't a problem.
What was that site?
That was called Explore Italian Culture, and it still exists. It's successful. It still earns me money. And we're talking 10 years ago now since I started it.
You say you found Solo Build It, but did you go down a lot of dark alleys in the process of getting to Solo Build It?
Oh, you wouldn't believe how many dark alleys I went down, honestly. So I found a company who would build me a website. So I invested something like £1,500. They did a whole design that was Italian flag colours and all the rest of it, handed it over to me, and I handed my money over. And then I went, well, now what do I do? And they said, not our problem. And I said, but I don't know how to do this. I literally couldn't open the website. I didn't know how. And I said to them, I need to write to this website. And they said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do it for you. So you write the content, we'll upload it. And that'll cost you, and this is 10 years ago, that'll cost you £1,000 a month for us to do it. And I just couldn't believe that somebody would do that, really. And now looking back on it, I can see that must happen to a lot of people, that they find things that they think are going to work and then they discover that they don't for different reasons. And it's devastating. It really is devastating. I was gutted.
For a lot of people that might be watching this right now, they're often confronted with the same issues. They'll have a service that will say, please buy X number of domains, and they even want you to have the name of the website before you do anything else. How does that actually fit in with your experience for creating a successful online business now?
So it doesn't fit at all. I mean, I had this idea about a website, but when I look back on it, knowing what I know now, I had no idea how people were going to find it, for example. Even if I'd managed to write to it, I hadn't thought about how people were going to find it. I hadn't thought about what subjects I could write about, apart from thinking kind of vaguely about, well, I love Italy, so I'll write about Italy. I hadn't been focused at all because there wasn't anything to help me focus. There was nobody there to guide me and say, okay, you need to, before you actually set up this website, you need to think about various things. Nobody had said that to me, and I didn't have the knowledge to know, there's that saying, you don't know what you don't know until you know it, kind of thing. And that's a really difficult place to be in.
Let's drill down a little bit about Solo Build It and what it does that, stands out from the competitors that are available. Here you are, you're in a jungle, if you like, of information, or lack of information, in fact, and it provides you with the information that really guides you towards a positive outcome, being a successful financial website. What is it that really stands out for you that really makes the difference with SBI?
The thing that makes an enormous difference is the guide bit. I needed a guide. If we're talking about a jungle, I needed somebody to help me find my way through it. And actually I found Solo Build It, and I thought it sounded too good to be true. It just, it was like, you don't need to know any technical type stuff. You just need to have passion for a subject. You need to either know about it or be willing to learn about it. And you need to have a positive attitude so that if anything happens that's not positive, you can come back to it, you can still carry on. So I needed somebody to tell me that, and that's what made a difference about SBI. That's all it told me I needed, and I knew I had that. And I actually found a guide. So I looked at SBI and I thought, that sounds a bit too good to be true, really. But they gave a list of sites that were successful, and one of them was a chap called Jim and his wife Fiona. And Jim and Fiona lived in Tuscany, but they were from the UK. So almost exactly my position and where I wanted to be. And they now had this website built with Solo Build It. And that was helping them to live in Italy and build a business in Italy. So I thought, well, it sounds a bit too good to be true as well. So I wrote to them via their website. And I asked Jim to give me some more detail about how he'd found it, what it was that was different, and how they'd managed to build up to this living in Italy dream world of mine. And Jim answered me and answered every single question I had. So every question about how it was done, about how much he was earning, about how much traffic his website was getting, Jim answered it, and answered it really honestly. And Jim and Fiona's website is still around. It's still a successful business, and they still live in Tuscany. And one day I'll meet them.
This is relevant even today, because if somebody's watching this right now and they think, oh, I'd like to ask, a current website owner some real life questions about what it really means, then X can still be done. Following the links at the bottom of this video right here will take you to some of the places that you can begin to explore the journey. So leaving that aside and assuming you're still watching, perhaps the next thing to ask is how the process of developing the site worked for you. Did you have to work every day full time? Did you do a little bit a day? How did it grow?
So when I first started, I was still working full time, and it was a stressful job. It took a lot out of me. It took a lot of energy away from me. Once I found SBI, though, it gave me this huge surge of extra energy. So when I came home from work after a hard day, because it was a stressful job, I would still have the energy to sit down at the computer and actually work on this process. I started reading through the Solo Build It action guide, and the action guide is what took me by the hand and led me through a process that 10 years ago, I had no knowledge about this. I knew nothing about how to build a website. It took me by the hand and led me step by step through a process, which means that now I have 2 successful online businesses. It is amazing.
Well, you mentioned the second online business. One's about Italy. The other one is about
chickens. My second website is about raising happy chickens.
That couldn't be much further from Italy, could it?
It couldn't be much further from anything, really. And, 10 years ago, if you'd said to me, in 10 years' time, you'll have 2 successful websites and one will be about chickens, I would have laughed in your face because it sounds so ridiculous. But actually, one of the things that SBI does is it makes you think really hard before you start the website. So whereas a lot of other platforms say, build a website in 15 minutes, and you can, there's no doubt you can stick a website up there in 15 minutes. But actually SBI makes you think about what you're going to do with it. It makes you think about the process behind it, about whether you've got enough interest in this to stick with it for years. It's 10 years since I started. So, and it takes you to places which you would never believe you'd end up in. I did do a lot of work before. It didn't just come from nowhere. So the process in SBI leads you through days before you even find a website name. It talks to you about what your passions are. It then helps you to put that together with what the keywords are, how this site will be found. Is it going to be found? Is it something people are interested in? Or is it just something that I'm interested in but nobody else will care about? It helps you build that process, and it was just fascinating to kind of find myself in the middle of it thinking, I'm going to build a website about chickens.
It's really worth making the point that for somebody watching that doesn't necessarily know how your website gets found, can you explain how important organic free traffic is?
Yeah, of course. So the majority of my traffic comes from organic search. And organic search is simply this. When you go to Google or another search engine and you put in a question, how to raise backyard chickens, the sites that come up are found because they're doing a good job of using keywords. Keywords are just the words that you put into any search engine when you're looking for the answer to a question. And what Solo Build It does is it has these amazing, I knew nothing about this, okay? But Solo Build It has these amazing tools that say to you, okay, put this word in, see how many people are looking for it, and see how many other people have already built websites about it. And then make a judgment. Is it worth writing about that or not? And that's basically how I managed to build up 2 websites, not knowing anything about how to do it previously.
But knowing a lot about the subject and being passionate about the subject.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that when I started the website about chickens, I didn't know a huge amount. I had 4 chickens. And but I'm from the city. I'm not from a place where chickens are common. But now I'm living in Italy. I have 4 chickens. I'm starting to build a website about them, and I'm learning. And the way I built that website was to learn with my chickens, poor things. They taught me an awful lot. And about reading, because I like doing research anyway. So I had to do a lot of research about what was good for chickens, what was not good for chickens. I learned from books. I learned from other people. I learned from one other solo build it website, which was about chickens. I learned in whatever way I could. I learned from local people in Italy, because it's a very rural community we live in, and people keep chickens. So I was able to ask locally. And so even if you choose a subject which you're really interested in, but you don't have a huge amount of knowledge in, it's possible to build up that knowledge enough to build a successful website. And that's exactly what I did with the chicken site.
So, Cath, the $64,000 question for somebody watching is probably, well, how many visitors do you get and how much money do you make? And I appreciate that we often don't want to divulge specific figures in terms of finances, but can you give us a bit of a yardstick about the traffic and what it's meant for you financially?
Yeah, of course. So both my sites, the Italian site and raisinghappychickens.com, are seasonal sites. In other words, at this time of year, October, running down to Halloween, Thanksgiving and Christmas, not many people are thinking about hatching chicks. So I always lose some traffic at this time of year. And then after Christmas, it starts to build up again. And it's the same with the Italian site. People start to think about their vacations in the new year. Having said that, the average number of people that visit, for example, the chicken site, is around about between 4,000 and 6,000 per day, depending on the time of year. So at this time of year, in the autumn running up to winter, it'll be round about 4,000 a day. In the new year, that'll increase again, and it'll keep increasing. And it also increases year on year, of course, as I get more people who come to the site and then come back to the site. So, and how does that translate into income? Well, the more traffic you have to a site, obviously, the more people can buy from the site. And that really works. That's the way it works. The more traffic, the more income. The income that I make from the sites enables Mike and I to travel, for example, which we would never have been able to do before. So we've both got families back in the UK. We go over to the UK, I don't know, maybe 4 times a year. We travel to the States to visit relatives there. We travel to places in Italy. So we try, for the Italian site, Explore Italian Culture, we try to go to somewhere in Italy once a month. So for example, last month we went to Rome. We were in Rome for 3 days. Now, we would never have been able to do that before, just to say, okay, so let's go to Rome for 3 days and use that as a way of doing some more work on the Italian site. It just gives us the freedom to do things that we would never have been able to do on a limited income.
So, Cath, in the introduction to the interview, you mentioned that your home and your life had been affected by the earthquakes in Italy. What impact did it have on your income?
So the earthquakes had impacts in lots of different ways. In terms of income from the sites, they just kept earning money because they were sitting there. I didn't need to do any work on them. They just kept earning money without me needing to do anything. And we had no internet connection for quite a long time. In terms of what happened then, the house was very badly damaged and we had to pay a huge amount in repairs. Although the insurance company paid some of that, the websites paid for 1/3 of that. And without them, we would not have been able to have the house made as earthquake proof as it now is.
So we're talking about monetizing and making money. How can you make money from a website anyway?
So I make money in different ways. Everybody, or most people, start off by adding AdSense to their website. AdSense are just those little ads that you see. If you click on them, then the person who owns the website earns a few cents. Most people do that, and I did that to start off with. It didn't earn me a huge amount of money, but it did earn me an additional income. I graduated from that to using affiliates. So for example, using Amazon to sell products, but I sell those products in a very specific way. So I don't just put up a link to something and expect somebody to buy it. What I do is I write fairly detailed reviews of the products, and I actually make a very substantial income from doing that. I don't write reviews and say this product is wonderful if I don't believe it is. I will tell it like it is, and I don't get paid by anybody for writing the reviews, so the companies don't pay me. So another way of doing it is to actually do deals with individuals who don't want to be an affiliate for a big company like Amazon. And so I had to come a little bit outside my comfort zone for that and approach people individually and say, can I sell on my website your product? And then we work out a way of me getting commission from that. So that's another step up. I have ebooks, which a lot of people have for sale, and they make, again, a bit of an additional income for me. And then my final product is my own product, which is an online course about incubating and hatching chickens. So making your own product, selling your own product is the kind of top level of income. That's the income that will earn you the most money. And that's how I've tried to build it. That's how I've tried to build it incrementally on both my websites.
So if you want to know how to monetize your own online business, here's the plan that Cath followed. First, she began with AdSense, which really didn't deliver her the results that she was hoping for. This is a story we hear time and time again within Solo Build It. She then began to transition towards monetizing her website with affiliates, first using Amazon without using AdSense. Her detailed, credible, first-hand user reviews have made a dramatic impact on her income from Amazon. She also expanded her range of products using non-Amazon affiliates. Notice how she hasn't put all her monetizing eggs into one basket, so to speak. The next step was selling ebooks and developing her own online training course. Cath's process of developing a range of sales channels, monetizing her own hobby, has allowed her to diversify and become more relevant to her visitors. If you're looking for ways to monetize your online business, check out our range of interviews with other solo business owners. You can see them just over my shoulder here. There are plenty of real-life stories about financial freedom using ebooks, apps, hand goods, travel affiliate programs, cookbooks, and English grammar. Plenty to get you excited, and all demonstrable success stories with Solo Build It. Once again, just up there in the corner. You can also take advantage of the product review article with your own free worksheets, available just by clicking the link directly below this video now. For us now, we often look at this in terms of building an online business because it's a great way to make money. But were you thinking in those terms in those days, or were you thinking only in terms of just getting a website up?
Absolutely, just getting a website up. It was, for me at the beginning, it was like a hobby really. That's the way I saw it, because I wanted something to keep my brain engaged. I knew I'd have to earn some extra money because of the drop I'd taken in income, but I didn't really understand that a website could do that. So I was actually thinking I'd need to have another job, a 9-to-5 kind of job. So when I started the site, it was definitely a hobby site. And then as I started to go through the process, the action guide actually begins to talk to you before you get to the stage of setting up a website. It talks to you about, well, how are you going to make money out of this? And it was at that point I thought, well, I hadn't really thought of making money, but the action guide makes you take a step back. And then I began to think, okay, so if I can make a bit of money out of this, why wouldn't I?
Does everybody need to have the same financial goals? How do you kind of make some measure of what's a successful site financially?
So I think everybody has to come to their own decision about what they want from the site, from your site. So for some people, it is just a hobby. Some people only want it to be something that they can do that occupies their mind, perhaps. For other people, it's actually a job that's a full-time job that actually supports themselves and their family. So we have SBIers whose websites are an online business that supports their families and is in place of other very well-paid jobs that they've had.
One of the standout features of the Solo Build It support staff is that just about everyone has their own online business. As a member of the Solo Build It content team, Cath is no exception.
Ken Evoy is very careful about who he chooses to work for his company. And those people he chooses must have a real belief in Solo Build It. It's not just a company that you would join because, you can make a lot of money or because you need a job. You have to have a real passion for it. And Ken is very clear about that and very passionate in that belief himself. So that's probably the first credential. You must really believe in Solo Build It, because if we as a company don't believe in it, then we're not going to give good service to our customers. And I can honestly tell you, I work with lots of different people in SiteSell, and every single one of them has a single passion, and that is to provide brilliant service for people who use Solo Build It. You have to have some knowledge about how to build a website, obviously. So your website has to be a successful website. And you have to know about the Solo Build It process and believe in that process. And I do. And that's why working for this company is so brilliant, because people always have focus on SBIers. What can we do to make SBIers' lives easier, to make their sites more successful? That is the whole ethos of SiteSell. And that's why, and I know it sounds like a cliche and that I'm perhaps going overboard, but that's why I love working for this company. Genuinely love it.
So Cath, as we're coming towards the end of this interview, is there one thing that you'd really want somebody that was considering starting a website or an online business, what they should know to really take the first step with certainty?
Yeah, just one thing really. So I'd want people to know that the whole package is there. The whole package is there. So for help in knowing how to build a website, for help in actually getting to that stage of building a website, the action guide's there. Once you've got the website, the action guide's there to help you to build it up and to get more traffic. The articles that we have are there to help you with anything you can think of. We have hundreds of articles. The social media action guides are there to help you, once you've built up some traffic, to increase that traffic and to make those platforms the best that you can make them. There are the forums, which are just brilliant for helping people to get unstuck. So if somebody does get stuck on a part of the action guide, you go to the forums, there's somebody there all day, every day, because our members are worldwide. You ask any question you want to ask. No question is too small, no question is stupid. Somebody will answer that question and will answer it with knowledge and with certainty. It's that whole ethos that SBI has of giving back. It's present in the forums as well as everywhere else. So the message I'd want to give to people is, it's all there. That's all you need. Everything you need is within Solo Build It. You don't need to go anywhere else. You just need to jump in and trust the process, because the process works.